Good morning. Welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Tuesday, October 26, 2010. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the U.S. It's 5:30 p.m. in Baden-Baden. In Mexico City, it's 10:30 a.m. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. The American Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is 63 years old today. Some news that came in after we put the issue to bed. American consumer confidence unexpectedly increased to the highest level in 7 months. In addition to that, the sales prices of American homes dropped 0.3%. Ford Motor Company had an extraordinarily good quarter. It made $1.7 billion in profit. And if you're a Lloyd's underwriter, somehow with the misfortune to be insuring the American actor Charlie Sheen, or worse, the business interruption coverage on 3.5 Men, the popular TV show, 2.5 Men, the American actor was arrested this morning at 2:30 a.m. at the Plaza Hotel in New York, completely intoxicated and stark naked in the hall after having trashed his hotel room. So this time he may go to jail. All right, now to our main news. Well, this is not good news, and our condolences go out to Mr. Benmosh. AIG President and CEO Bob Benmosh has cancer, and he's undergoing aggressive chemotherapy at the moment. In a letter to AIG employees, Benmosh said that despite the treatment, quote, "I continue to work according to my normal schedule." He expects to have a clearer picture of his prognosis over the next couple of months as he continues his treatment and, quote, "doctors refine their diagnosis." AIG Chairman Robert Miller said that the directors have every confidence they'll work together without interruption as AIG executes its plan to repay taxpayers. Benmosh said that he plans to adhere to his goal of retiring sometime in 2012, but acknowledged that the group will prepare for any alternate plan that fate may have in mind. He's been at the helm of AIG for 14 months. We wish Mr. Benmosh the best. This earthquake occurred yesterday, about an hour or so after we went off the air, but we decided not to come back on. There were no reports of any damage. It was a 7.7 magnitude quake just to the west of Sumatra in Indonesia, and it ended up triggering a 10-foot tsunami. Killed at least one person. Thousands have been removed to higher ground. There seem to be several ships still unaccounted for in the Indian Ocean. The Daily Telegraph of Sydney is reporting that a charter boat carrying 9 Australian surfers, including a former member of Parliament, is missing. This is the same fault that triggered this quake that triggered the 2004 9.1 quake. Amazingly good news coming out of Britain. The British economy grew by a 0.8%, 0.8% in the third quarter rate, twice as fast as expected. This apparently is going to calm the fears of a double-dip recession. The growth followed a rate increase of 1.2% in the second quarter. That in itself was a 9-year high. The combined expansion of the two quarters was the strongest back-to-back performance by the British economy in a decade. Economic output is now 2.8% higher than it was a year ago. David Cameron's government got more good news when Standard & Poor's upgraded its outlook for British debt from negative to stable. Also, the pound, of course, surged after this economic news. It rose against all 16 of its most traded peers. For example, against the dollar, it went up to $1.58.86. Strengthened to 87.84 pence per euro from 88.81 pence yesterday. So now, of course, do the British government tempt fate with the apparently reviving economy by imposing the draconian cuts that they recently released last week? We'll see. Well, in the United States, a strong winter or fall storm is going through the Midwest. There's a picture of it here. It has cyclone-like wind speeds. The massive storm stretches all the way from the Dakotas to the eastern Great Lakes. Severe thunderstorm warnings blanketed much of the Midwest. Tornado warnings were issued from Arkansas up to southern Illinois. Flights have been canceled at O'Hare Airport in Chicago. 50-mile-an-hour gusts are slamming into the Chicago area. It's the strongest storm to hit Illinois in 70 years. A temporary ground stop has been imposed at O'Hare. Oddly enough, no cancellations have yet been reported at Midway International Airport on the city's south side. Meteorologists are saying that the storm's central pressure is equivalent to a Category 3 hurricane. A little bit to the west, strong winds have blanketed the northern plains, with heavy snow not far behind. Much of North Dakota is under a blizzard warning. The National Weather Service said up to 10 inches of snow could fall in some areas of the state beginning tonight and into early tomorrow morning. Well, Typhoon Meggy is still running around like a pinball in China. It's made a second landfall in Zhangpu City in China's southeast. It's now caused economic losses of about $410 million across the province, including about $220 million U.S. in the city itself. This is according to AIR. Some 26,000 hectares of crops have been destroyed. Fortunately or unfortunately, some damage is anticipated to residential properties, but a high proportion of these losses are not likely to be insured. Overall, the penetration of residential insurance in the Fujian province is only at about 5%. According to the Japanese Meteorological Agency, Meggy dissipated 12 hours after it made this second and hopefully final landfall in China. The stock market in New York is up about 4.7 points right now. We'll go to a word from our sponsors.
Design for peace.
Well, it looks as if Brit Insurance has finally come to an agreement with Apollo and CVC Partners. Brit and Achilles, which is a new company formed by Apollo and CVC, have agreed to the terms of a recommended cash offer from their Brit board of up to £11 per share for the total acquisition of Brit. According to Brit Chairman John Barton, I'm pleased that we've reached agreement on the terms of the offer, which values Brit shares at a significant premium to the prevailing market price prior to the beginning of this offer period. The proposal also comprises an offer and a capital distribution of 30 pence. Under the terms of the offer, all accepting Brit shareholders will be entitled to receive £10.45 in cash, plus a contingent value payment of up to 25 pence in cash per Brit share. In addition, entitled Brit shareholders will remain eligible to receive the 30 pence capital distribution payable in cash on December 7th later this year. Separately, Brit announced that its gross written premium for the first 9 months of 2010 fell 8.5% from the same period last year. The company said lower premium reflect active portfolio management and a disciplined approach to renewals in the part of the underwriters. Well, Lord Levine made some news. He's in Singapore. He's hailing Singapore's presence, or Lloyd's presence in Singapore, as the right place at the right time. He revealed that the market's reinsurance hub is going to be moving to new offices next year because its existing office at 1 George Street is, quote, bursting at the seams. Mr. Levine was speaking to Insurance Day in Singapore. Lloyd's hosted a conference there to celebrate the 10th anniversary of their Singapore hub. He said, quote, Lloyd's Asia has generated close to $300 million in premium income last year, having risen from zero a decade ago. It has fulfilled the idea we had at the time. A much stronger presence was needed in this time zone. He said there is a completely different atmosphere from the U.S. and Europe here, where we are all wallowing in doom and gloom. He said this region is growing, and it's a good place to be. He said it remained up to specific syndicates as to whether they wanted to pursue a strategy of having reps on the ground in Singapore. Levine said that one of the most important factors behind Lloyd's continued investment in Singapore is the integrity of the city-state itself. He said the most valuable assets Lloyd's has is its name. We can't afford to have anyone put that name in jeopardy, but with Singapore there is total integrity. We can rest easy. Of course, that's a vast testament to former Singapore Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew. The general representative for Singapore, John Sung, said energy remains the largest class of business written at the Lloyd's Asia hub. He said brokers in Asia tended to work more via email or on the phone than via face-to-face contact. But he said for some classes such as energy, we do occasionally see brokers coming into the office and speaking face-to-face to underwriters. Imagine that. Well, this is sort of big news, actually. The New York Times is reporting this in a blog. I'll read it verbatim from them. Few topics grab investors' attention more than the question of who might succeed Warren Buffett as the maestro at Berkshire Hathaway. But yesterday, Mr. Buffett himself weighed in on the matter. After the company announced that it had hired 39-year-old Todd Combs to oversee a big chunk of its investment portfolio, Buffett told the New York Times that the newcomer could be Berkshire's next chief investment officer. Quote, he's got the best chance of being the successor, but if we find the right guy or gal, we take that person too. He added the matter hadn't been decided. He also told the Times that Li Lu, a Chinese hedge fund manager considered one of the other top candidates, has apparently bowed out of the running and decided to stay on in his fund. Lest anyone get too carried away, Buffett emphasized that as important as the chief investment officer will be, it's not the most important position in the company. Berkshire's chief executive, who would be in charge of operations and strategy, would be equally important, and the list of candidates for that role remains a topic for hot debate. Well, it's interesting. We know a couple of those other people are in the running for that CEO role. Well, it's like a horse race. Well, the Chinese Insurance Regulatory Commission's website today said that they have fined 14 insurance companies a total of about 10 million won for violations of insurance rules. PICC P&C, China Life, Ping An, and China Pacific Property each received fines. That's all the information that was there. Yesterday we reported that typhoon, that volcano Mount Merapi in Indonesia was close to erupting. Well, it erupted this morning. This is after scientists said that pressure building beneath its dome could trigger the most powerful eruption in years. 20 people, who apparently were not evacuated, were injured by hot ash. The volcano is still rumbling and groaning. Scientists have warned that the pressure could produce one of the most powerful blasts in years. Quote, we're hoping it will release slowly. Otherwise, one scientist said, we're looking at a potentially huge eruption bigger than anything we've seen in years. The alert level for the 9,700-foot mountain has been raised to its highest level. Well, I guess this was only a matter